All right, so it's time to knock out some Patreon requests and some subscriber mail. Um, Now, the first one here is Borderlands, a found footage film, an English found footage film. And not only did it come with this is mail. I got this in the mail. It's a Region 2, so this person knew that I had a region free Blu ray player. It's a DVD, but plays DVDs and Blu rays from everywhere. But it also came with this. It's a signed photo of the main dude here from the film. So that's pretty damn cool. Obviously, they're a huge fan of this film, as they put in their letter. And this is, you know, I wasn't a huge fan of this film when this was sent to me, but man, the thought is what counts. And obviously, they were very excited to send this to me, and that's awesome. Genuinely, like, I never exactly know how to say or feel about any of these things because, like, I feel like I'm never saying enough. I feel like I want to be as genuinely as human. I want to be as genuine as humanly possible on this channel. Like, as I always tell people, I am who I am. Like, on this channel, like, if you meet me in person, I guarantee you I'm exactly the same person. This is me, and how I am on my channel and how I talk to you guys is exactly how I talk to everybody. So I appreciate this. Even though I'm not a huge fan of this movie, as I said, it is the thought that counts, so thank you. So let's get into the film. Now, Borderlands here, which maybe I can get to the notes. That is actually, yeah, there we go. Also known as The Final Prayer. I think that's what it's called in the States, but I can't. Finding a copy of this movie is really fucking hard. Like, I went on eBay and I was like, wow, this movie is pretty pricey when you do find it. And so, here I got this Region 2 DVD, but I was pretty surprised. And what prompted me to finally watch this, because I think I've had this thing for like a month or two or more. God, I can't even remember how long I've had it now. I've had it for a while. Exploding Heads covered this on their podcast, and I was like, man, I got to get to that movie because they all really liked it a lot, like loved it. And the first time I watched this, I didn't like it at all. Like, when I watched it when it first came out, I was bored out of my fucking mind with this movie, and I wanted it to end. I honestly don't even know if I finished it. I was so bored with it. But when it was sent to me and I listened to Dave and Brandon and Christian talk about this movie, how much they liked it, and obviously, it was sent to me with such love, I was like, damn, man, I gotta give this movie another shot. Like, what am I missing here? I love found footage. I'm, kind of in the rarer side of things. I'm in that camp of people, which is a very small camp. And now, okay, on the flip side of that, though, I should say, I don't really like religious horror very much. I always feel like it's very, very the same. Of course, there's exceptions. Obviously, there always is. I love The Exorcist, like most people. My favorite found footage film out there is The Last Exorcism, which is clearly very, very heavily, religious in a lot of ways. But I think what I like about that one is that Cotton is trying to disprove what's going on. He's like a scam artist, but he's like proving that he's a scam artist, and he's trying to open people's eyes to it and whatever. And of course, things start to happen, and he gets his faith back, whatever. But in this one, this kind of plays out ish like that. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like one of the Paranormal Activity movies mixed with The Last Exorcism, because Deacon and this other guy are hired to go in there and essentially debunk any claims that are made for the Vatican. And if they cannot be, then in those rare instances, then the Vatican will handle things from there, further from there. So these guys are coming in there, and most of the time they come in and find that this is bullshit. And of course, this time they don't. We're going to get into spoilers, obviously. This time around, I did like it. I think where this movie succeeds is in its eeriness. There is a creep factor to this movie in parts. Like, there's a few moments in particular where I was like, whoa, this is freaky. Like, this is a freaky fucking movie in this moment. And I think that it has a pretty good retention of that eeriness once it starts to happen. And I did like the characters. I liked Deacon, and I also liked the goofy guy that he had with him. I can't remember his name. Gray. That was it. Gray. Gray was kind of the comic relief, and I liked him. So I did like both the main characters here. So I will say that overall, I actually really enjoyed it this time. I'll go up to a really enjoyed. You guys know I don't bullshit. If I don't like something, if somebody sends me something or somebody requests something and I don't like it, I'll fucking tell you. So don't ever claim that, like, oh, well, Jason's just saying that because he sent him and he sent a pic. Fuck that. If I thought this movie was shit, I'd be like, dude, like, thanks for the picture and thanks for the movie, but this movie's fucking terrible. It's not the case. I'm not placating here. Like, I genuinely think I really liked it this time. And maybe even would love it on a third watch, possibly. I don't know if I'd ever get there. And here's why I don't think I'd ever get there. I think the ending is cool. I do. But I feel like it's missing something. I feel like there needs to just be a little more climax to it. Like, I feel like we get maybe a little more than halfway there. But I feel like maybe we only get 75% of the way there, which isn't bad. And that's why I think that I'm at I really like it. I don't love it. Because I kept expecting a little more out of things when they go down into those tunnels. Now, when they go down into those tunnels, that shit's freaky. Like, don't get me wrong, 100%. That shit, if in real life. And that's what found footage is great about doing. When done right, it very much puts you in the point of view. You know, that's the whole point of the gimmick, is that you feel like you're there, especially when it's handheld. Now, if it's like security cameras kind of play a little bit more like traditional film because it's more of like a voyeuristic point of view. But when like somebody's actually holding the camera and they're looking around and everything, you're seeing things through their eyes. You're seeing things in real time and you're seeing things how they see them, and you're not really seeing their reactions. You're feeling their reactions and you're reacting with them, you know, as they experience them. So the more handheld stuff. Now, of course, the downside of the handheld stuff is the handheld stuff becomes shaky cam, and shaky cam can be really, really fucking annoying. So, you know, both kind of have their ups and their downs when it comes to the found footage style. You lose that more intimate, more point of view perspective when it's more of the security cameras or the the laptop footage or something along those lines, FaceTime, whatnot. But I still do like that. I think Unfriended is one of the best found footage movies out there. I think it's fucking fantastic. This isn't a horror movie exactly, but the movie Searching is phenomenal. You know, and that's all webcam based. So it's not that it takes away from it, but it does lose, as I said, kind of that first person intimacy that a handheld camera might do within, like, you know, Blair Witch, what have you. So this movie has much more of that very much perspective because they wear headgear where they have a camera on the side of their face. So you're legitimately seeing it from their eye, you know, height even. Like, you're like right with them. You're right where they are, what they're seeing, exactly how they're seeing it in the moment they're seeing it. One of the crutches of this film, and one of the crutches of many found footage films that I absolutely despise, and you've heard me talk about this on the channel a trillion fucking times, is the video distortion coming in the right opportune moments to cut things out, to leave things in gray and shady areas where it's like, oh, well, it cut out, so, you know, you don't get to see it. Like, I hate that shit, and it's played out here, and there's one another reason why it's not a love kind of movie, because I just can't exactly get on board. Now, there are moments where it can make sense in movies, but I felt like this one was just cheap. Like, most of the time with any of these, where the camera starts, like, juddering. I'm not fucking with you. There was, like, I want to say there was, like, 3 times or more where I had to pick up the controller and I had to press display on the player to see if the disc was fucking up. And I actually rewound a certain scene because I was like, is my disc messed up? Was I getting distortion? Or was that from the film? Because there's this one place where they're down in the caves and the caves are all distorted, and it sometimes DVDs will do that. And I was like, oh shit, is this DVD fucked up? And then there was one that was so stationary for so long and nothing was happening at all, I thought that the disc had froze. I was like, oh shit, there's a scratch on it. I actually went to eject it. And then like I saw like a flutter of something on the screen. Like I think it was like a open window or something, and like maybe something like moved a teeny bit, and I was like, oh, is it playing? It was like a 15-20 second period where I was like, oh shit, it froze. Like after like 10 seconds I kind of gave up. I was like, oh, this isn't a still image, this is frozen. And then I went to like grab my remote, and then I saw something kind of twitch, and I was like, wait, is it? Or is it like juddering now? Like, is it like one of those skips where it's like it freezes and then it like, you know, I actually tried to hit display after that because I was trying to see like what the timestamp was, so that after I cleaned the disc, when I put it back in, I could get right back to the time and see if I could get past that to make sure it wasn't like a scratch and it was more of like a thumbprint or something. You know what I'm talking about if you've watched physical media enough. But nothing was ever wrong with the disc. I mean, I had like 3 to 4 occurrences where I had to check to see if the movie was still playing. That's not good. That's not good. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be stagnant for so long that the audience thinks that your movie is frozen, with or without Anna or Elsa in it. I couldn't help myself. I had to make the Frozen joke. I dismissed it earlier when I said the Frozen thing, and I was like, don't do it. Don't do the Anna and Elsa thing. Don't do the Let It Go. I had all these things, and I was like, no. And then, fuck, I still gave into it. Stupid. Anyway, but then also the distortion. Like, I shouldn't like be rewinding the disc to see if the distortion's all the same in that moment to be like, oh, that's actually in the film. Like, that's not my DVD player fucking up, or my Blu-ray player. Who the fuck has a DVD player anymore? Come on, Blu-ray player. So that's negative. That's a negative to me. It has to be. It has to be. If I'm the audience member and I'm checking the footage multiple times throughout to make sure my disc is working properly, that's not good. For me, that's just like, that takes me out of the movie. Like, I'm legitimately out of the movie. I'm having to grab the remote, even though I'm watching the movie. It's not like I got a phone call. It's not like somebody came in the room and interrupted me. No, the movie interrupted me. That's not good. It's just not good. Anyway, I wrote down video distortion, ugh, and I put ugh in capital letters just so that I wouldn't miss it, I guess. We also get a fake out friend scare. Now, there isn't a loud jump music or anything because there really isn't any music in this movie, but still, you get the friend goes and hides and he jumps up, oh, I got you, ha ha ha, and it's like, come on, man, enough with the fake friend bullshit. I hate that stuff. Gray's name being on the headstone when he like just kind of hovers around it for a second, that right there is fantastic stuff. That kind of stuff is beautiful because only the audience that's paying attention is getting that creepiness. That's for the people who are not fucking with their phones. You know, shout out right now because I've been talking to someone from my Patreon, and what's funny is that she's been telling me, like, she's showing her cousins movies and they're like fucking with their phones the whole time. And I'm telling you guys, like, this should be a rule. Please make this a rule. If you take your time, like, and someone's like, oh, show me a movie, somebody, whatever, or if you're like, hey, will you watch the movie? I really want to show this movie to you, because for me, that's like a treat. That's like me doing something. Like, that's the highest honor that I can give you in my world. You might, somebody else outside of this, I'm sure you guys understand this, but there's a lot of people out there who probably think that was stupid. I don't care. That's the truth. Like, for me, that's like the highest honor I can give you. Like, I want to show you a movie, something I've seen before, something, you know, I love and I want to watch, but at the same time, like, I could watch a billion other things. Like, I'm taking this time because I want to share something with you that's really personal to me. Like, I'm showing you this film. I want you to watch it because I think you'll like it and I really like it and it's something we can share and bond over and this and that. And then you get on your phone and you're like not paying attention to the movie. Yes, every fucking second of that movie that I'm showing you is important. Every second. If you need to get up to go to the bathroom, if you need to get on your phone because something important came through, I understand. Life happens. Ask me to pause it. But just getting on your phone is fucking disrespectful. So something like this in the moment. But what I was trying to say, like, make this a rule. Sorry, make this a rule. If somebody fucks around with their phone when you're like, hey, I want to show you this movie. Oh, you've never seen The Thing? You've never seen John Carpenter's The Thing? Let me show it to you. Let me share with you what I think to be greatness. What's something that is so connected to my identity. I want to share this with you. And they get on their phone, they fuck around with it, and they're like looking up at the screen and down with John Carpenter's classics on the screen, or, you know, of course that's just one example, but whatever, you know, insert your film. That person gets on their phone, you never fucking show them a movie again. Ever. They have completely lost that privilege. Fuck, I mean, I would just maybe stop talking to them. I mean, this is family in her case, but still, not cool. Not fucking cool. So this is one of those moments in the movie where it's like the people who are paying attention, the people who do multiple watches, maybe you missed it on your first watch, even if you're paying attention, maybe you didn't even see it. That's like those little things you pick up, like Insidious, when that kid's standing in the corner. Maybe you didn't see it the first time. If you're really paying attention, though, it's for the people who are really invested, the people who are really, really looking at that screen, and they're you know, taking in the ambiance. They're taking in the atmosphere. They're taking in the entire screen. Like, those are the people who are really, really invested or involved in film. And that kind of stuff there for me, that's subtle. It's a subtle little thing that just adds to that escalator. You know, just packing on another little creepiness. And then it just builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. And that's how horror should work. Like, there's that build and maybe like a couple little climaxes that kind of just like bring it back down for a second, because it's like, whoa, this big crescendo, and then it like brings it, but then it like starts to steadily increase, but it always is on the rise, even if it has these little peaks and valleys as it goes. That ending should always be on the uprise from the beginning through. And stuff like that, I love that kind of stuff. I just love little subtle things, paying attention, little Easter eggs, little nods, little creepiness. And you're just like, oh, fuck, that's eerie. Like, he never notices it. There's never any attention called to it at all, for any reason. Not throughout the whole movie. And that's great stuff. Because that's like, it's a reward, is what it is. It's a reward and an experience enhancer for those who are fully invested in that moment, who are there for the film and are actually watching. I love that shit. Anyways, I went on for that for way too long. I think I was like 5 straight minutes, but all of that was extremely important to me. So, but that brought that to light, and I really wanted to talk about all those things. So there you go. And when he goes and he punches that kid, like, I feel so strongly about this. Like, I've said this on the channel, I think, before, but there's some people that just deserve to get popped. Like, we live in a society now where, like, violence is never the answer, and you'll go to jail for these things, you'll be arrested for these things. And yeah, I mean, who are you to be judge, jury, executioner, this and that? And, you know, but we're not talking about real life here, although I do mean this in real life too. Unfortunately, we can't really always give in to these realities, what I think to be a reality anyway, but kids like this, they just don't fucking learn. Like, even if they're not kids, even if that was an adult or whatever, and he's like, you know, he's antagonizing this guy in such a way where it's like, these kids just need to be slapped around. Like a stern talking to or whatever. That's not going to do shit. It's just not going to do anything. You know, some people, that stuff works. Everybody's different. There is no one size fits all with anything. So when everyone's like, oh, that's not the answer. So there's an answer. There's one specific answer for everything. Bullshit. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer for almost anything. Getting back to the exceptions to every rule, of course there is a one-size-fits-all for very few things. For the most part, I think there are people who just need to be fucking hit. Some people that just need to be slapped around. Some people who have to be physically, taken care of enough for them to be like, wow, okay, like maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. So when he hit these kids and the guy's like, oh man, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have. Yeah, you should have. Because there was a horrifying scene in this movie. An absolutely horrifying scene. And they're just sitting in the house, casually minding their own business, and a fucking sheep just starts screaming. This reminds me of the description that Clarice gives to Hannibal Lecter about the slaughtering of the lambs with that scream. Like, I feel like you could insert this scream over that scene in Silence of the Lambs and it would fit perfectly, because that's it right there. She wants to silence the lambs. Like, that scream is forever imprinted on your brain. And it's like this scream in this movie is haunting. It really is. It is just pure agony. Like, how they got this scream? Did they go and record this in like a fucking slaughterhouse or something? Like, did they just set a sheep on fire and record it? Like, whatever the hell that noise is, I don't want to ever hear it again. It's horrid. It's horrible to listen to a defenseless creature cry out in pure agony for, it just seems seemingly forever. This scene feels like it goes on for an hour. It's probably only screaming for 15, 20 seconds in the movie, but my God, it feels like 20 minutes, because when you realize what it is, you're like, make it stop. Holy shit, I can't take it anymore. This poor thing, and he goes out there and he puts it out of its fucking misery, and it's so sad. And then these little kids are like, bah, bah, like antagonizing this guy, making fun of a sheep, crying out. Like, this is what I was trying to get at earlier. Like, you're making fun of an animal who was screaming in pure agony because it was on fire. You deserve to be punched in the fucking face. Period. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it with me. Like, the kind of depraved mind is not going to respond to, like, you kids, you don't know, you better listen. Fuck all that. Pop them. So when he's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that bullshit, I set that fucking kid on fire. Anyway, when he bad like that, I was like, oh man. Whew. Anyway, all right. This is going a little long, so let's kind of wrap this up. There are some really creepy moments in this. When he's like walking through the woods, and then he looks up, because that priest kills himself, which is a pretty, fucked up scene. But when he goes out in the woods later and he just sees the priest like standing up there for like a second, and he like drops the camera, just like the way that the sound design is in that, and the way he captures him in the camera, and then he comes back and he's gone, all that is absolutely pitch perfect terrifying. Like, that's great stuff. That is such a great moment, because like less is more in these found footage movies, right? Like, when you see too much, it's just overboard. You can't do it in these kinds of movies. Like, you have to like play with the audience, and you can't reveal anything until the very, very end. And they do a really good job in that moment. Then he goes up and he sees this shit's like filled with worms. I don't know what the symbolisms or metaphors or whatever the hell that all means, but I guess he's rotting in the dirt, and like, I don't know. But then then you got that baby crying every like 30 minutes in this movie. You just get this creepy. Why is babies crying so terrifying to us? I guess it's because the idea of a dead child in hell. That's a horrible, horrible thought. Imagine a baby screaming from hell. Oh my God, that's just a dreadful thought. I guess that I answered my question. There you go. But like in movies where it's not even hell based, it's just like maybe it's a dead kid, right? Is that what it is? But I don't know what's scary about that. I think it's more depressing than anything. Anyway, so then they go down into those caves, and that whole scene, everything there is really good. As I said, I think there's something missing, but for the most part, I really like it. And then I do like how it wraps up. I like they're running around down there. which would be absolutely terrifying. I just felt like there was, I don't know, maybe some more creepy imagery is what I would have wanted down there. I think that's what it is. I would have liked to see more. Like, this is where you let it loose. This is where you bear all. This is the grand finale. This is like, you want to see creatures. You want to see, ghosts. You want to see something absolutely haunting, something chilling, something that never leaves. But even though we don't get that, we do essentially get these guys crawling through the intestines of some beast. They've crawled down into the belly of the beast, and they're literally being freaking, digested. And they have digestive enzymes and acid on them, and they're being digested slowly, and they're blood's coming out of them, and their face is melting, and they're screaming in pure agony. That's a fucking chilling ending. That really is. That's gotta be one of the darkest endings I've ever seen in a movie. Like, how many movies have you seen? We've seen plenty of dark endings in horror movies where a person just gets killed or whatever. But how many movies end where the main protagonists of the film, 2 of them, mind you, are being dissolved in acid, screaming in agony, and then credits? You know of many? You know of any that have that dark of an ending? Megan is Missing has an ending that dark. But there's not a lot of movies that end that dark. That's dark. That's pitch black dark. like, there's no hope. Like, they were digested slow. Like, even after that camera went off, even during those credits were rolling, those guys are still screaming. They're like in the Sarlacc pit. They're going to be digested for 1,000 years. I don't know why the 1,000 years is so scary to them. Like, why that's supposed to be scary. You die of suffocation in like 2 minutes. So for the next, it wouldn't matter if it was 1 trillion years. What's the difference? So that line's always been stupid to me in the movie. Unless he was like somehow able to keep you alive. Because that would have been a more fucked up line. Like the Sarlacc, he keeps you alive and you'll feel agony for 20 years, a year or whatever. You'll be in absolute agony. It is like figures a way out to like feed you and keep you, somehow conscious enough to feel pain for eons, for an hour, or decades, or I don't know, something insane. But like, you'll be digested for 1,000 years. Doesn't make any sense. But in this movie, we kind of see what the Sarlacc pit would be like. It would be horrible, but of course those guys died like minutes thereafter. So yeah, it's terrible for a couple minutes, awful, but it's not 1,000 years, mind you. Now, this could be hell, and they could just be burning like that forever, which is, of course, the fear of some people. I think it's a ridiculous thought, but regardless, it's a horrible thought. If true, oh my God, I repent. My God, what a horrible fate. But yeah, dark ending, some really creepy stuff. Doesn't fully commit to certain things, feels like it's lackluster in certain places. For me, maybe a third watch would maybe fix some of those issues, maybe not, I don't know, but I have a copy now, so I can watch it whenever, and I even have a framed picture to remind me to watch this. Let me make sure that I knocked out everything here. I'm pretty sure I did. Oh, another thing real quick. This is kind of a point towards horror in general, but it's specifically like a religious-based horror movie. Now, back in the 70s, the early 70s, like 73, when The Exorcist came out, back then, Catholics and Christians and religious people alike did go to do that movie, and that's why it's considered the scariest movie of all time, because if you believe in this stuff and you went and saw this, of course it would be absolutely terrifying. Absolutely. It's like reaffirming all of your like biggest fears. But like nowadays, people who are like really religious, people who are like would really believe in this kind of stuff, they won't watch this shit. So even if this movie was terrifying to the people like that, they just don't watch it anymore, which is kind of a shame, because that's like the target audience. And I've talked about that with horror in general. Like, the people who it will really scare, the people who it would truly be effective on, won't watch it. And there's no other genre like that. The people who will laugh the absolute most at a comedy, of course those people will watch it. Why wouldn't I want to feel amazing? Why wouldn't I want to laugh my ass off, right? But with these kinds of movies, with any horror movie in general, like, its point is to scare you. And the people who will get the absolute most afraid by far, you know, the target audience, I suppose, would never watch it. And that's, like, I get why they wouldn't. I wouldn't want to watch a movie that made me so afraid I couldn't sleep for weeks and, like, it legitimately fucked my life up. Like, God, that sounds awful. So I get it. But it is kind of like, I don't know, like, something exists for that purpose and it won't ever be fulfilled. But at the same time, I completely get why. It's a weird thing for me. Anyways, all right. So thank you for this. Thank you for the picture. Thank you guys. You're awesome. Adios.